And it is another fantastic day here at Fun King Garage. Today's episode is part 2 of rewiring the 1955 Ford Fairlane. If you didn't catch part 1, I will put a link to it up here, as well as down in the description, so that you can get caught up before you watch this episode. So please enjoy. Alright, so as you can see, what I did was I took that big mass of wires that were coming out of the front of the car, and I individually picked through them, organized them, and laid them in places that might not make any sense. They do to me. So I have still a mass of wire coming out of the MSD box, but I have one that comes from inside that goes to the MSD box, and that is my tax signal wire. I have this chunk of wires back here. This is headlights, turn signals, and I realized that I put something in there that shouldn't be there. So I will correct that in a moment. But this lump of wire is actually got to come to this headlight, but it also has to break around and go to that headlight. I'm trying to avoid all wires running across the front of the car. These two right here run only to that side. These ones that lay down in here go to engine only things, and as I look at this, I feel like now I'm maybe missing some things, but we'll find those. Now that I've got kind of a general idea of what's going on here, I can group these. Now they all have to come back together so that the grommet can slide over the top of them, but there's still more wires that have to come in and out of here, things that aren't accounted for in this wiring system. That I'm waiting on wire to get here, and it would be here if the U.S. Postal Service wasn't such a dumpster fire, and it was supposed to be delivered on Friday. Today is Monday, and it's still not here. Almost all the interior wiring is done. The gauges that go in my center console, so I have the lighting now broken down to here, and I can't wire any of this until the wire gets here. This mass right here, can you see this mass? This is the MSD harness. And it looks used because it is. I had it on the car last year, but I'm going to go ahead and get this wired in, and that should be easy enough to get set up. The engine's going to be on a 12-pin ditch connector, so that if I need to remove the engine, I don't have to pull the whole harness off of it. I can unplug one thing. Now, if you're familiar with the MSD digital 6AL box, I am running the MSD and the Pertronics trigger in my distributor. And with that particular setup, it's actually completely capable of taking the MSD out of the equation, and the motor's still running. Now, if you're running like a MSD ready to run distributor, you have to have the digital box to go with it. So if the 6AL were to crap out in the middle of nowhere, you'd be up a creek with no paddle. So what I've opted to do, being that it's a small configuration change to reroute some things, I'm actually making an adapter. When I undo that 12-pin ditch connector for the engine, I will be able to snap in a small wiring harness, and all it's going to do is redirect bypassing the MSD box and allowing the Pertronix distributor to run the coil directly. So I won't have the benefits of the multi-fire and the hotter spark and all of that, but it'll get me off of the highway or whatever I need to. So, and it'll be a small adapter. I'll be able to hide it in a spare tire well or glove box or anywhere like that. Things are coming together. The firewall is all done. It's cleaned up. I had 3 riv nuts coming out for the fuel pedal. I actually drilled those out tonight, reversed them so that they poke inward because I have a spacer for the throttle pedal, and now those don't stick out anywhere near the engine, and I will use bolts that are only long enough to make it in there. That should bring you up to speed as far as to what's been going on. I'm sorry that there hasn't been more video of hands-on, but most of what I've been doing has been under the dash, and there's just barely enough room for me to get underneath there. It's been a lot of little piddly things as I wait for the wire to get here. This car needs a bath, something fierce. I have the transmission to still seal, the suspension bushings to put in, so maybe working on that in between. You won't see that in this video. You'll see it in its own separate video. It's late, I'm tired. And it's right after daylight savings time, which sucks. It's the downside to using wire not on a spool. Alright, so this was an unthought of wire. I want to eventually add a remote trunk release, so that's where this wire is going to come in. I'm not taping the whole harness, I'm just putting a little tape on the very end so I can feed it through where it needs to go. It's never good when 2 deputies roll through your neighborhood. I may have to go the other way. In fact, I think I'm just gonna do that. That worked quite a bit better. I'm gonna move to the inside and tie these new wires to the other new wires and start building the trunk harness. Oh, I have so many tools in this car. This is a really cool crimping tool. It's made by iCrimp by iWis, but it's actually 6 different crimping tools, and you can change the jaws out just by pulling them out like this. No screws, nothing to mess around with. It's brilliant. I have to say, I'm pretty happy with where it ended in the trunk. The wire for the remote turn on, nope, it's not true. The wire for the accessory power for the air ride is right where the hinge is. And this tan wire, which will be for the trunk release, is right where the hinge is. And again, it's got to run up the deck lid. So now the only other thing that has to go to the trunk is the 8 gauge. And that's for the air compressor. That's all the wires, and then I can put the interior back in. So at this point, I'm gonna dump you off for a little while. I'm gonna get some stuff done and then I'll come back. I thought I'd show you real quick how I'm making this particular harness. This is the dash lights. And then at the very end, I have the original clock, which doesn't work, but I still want to light it up. So what I have here is just a piece of wire. It's 18 gauge, so I put a strip crimp cut. I've marked all of them where I wanted them to be with a Sharpie marker. And then I take this razor blade, give it a little dig. Takes just a minute because I don't cut very deep in there. I don't want to take a chance of cutting the wires. We just kind of peel that out, and now what I'm left with is a stripped spot in the middle of the wire. Then I'm using these open barrel splices, which these came from DigiKey. This size, I ordered the least amount of them, and so far I've used the most of that size. Alright, so here's where the fidgety part comes up. With this particular one, this is going to be a bulb socket, so I got my Doorman bulb sockets. I had originally ordered some that had a ground wire to them, but they were really bad quality. So, sorry, battery died, and then I was attacked by a wasp. Sorry you missed that. Anyway, what I was saying is I ordered some bulb sockets from eBay, and they were really bad quality, and so I opted to send them back and just run my own grounds. All right, I'm going to snip that off just because I don't need it to be that long. These are also 18 gauge. All right, so here's where the fidgety part comes up. I don't know if you can tell how little that is, but they are quite small. So, but they're too small for the insulation to fit through. And these are amazing crimpers. I love Iwis brand crimpers. As you can tell, I have a plethora of them here. These are changeable head. I think I showed these the other day, but anyway, so what I got to do is I got to put that little saddle over the wire. And again, this is the fidgety part. I'm doing this in real time, so you guys get to see my fidgetiness. And it's in there. I know you can't really see it, but I can't hold this, zoom in, all that stuff at the same time. So now what I got to do is get this second wire in there and make sure that first wire is lined up. Crimp. Fight to get it out of the crimper. And what you end up with is missing a couple of conductors. But you end up with a very nice inline crimp. And then if you keep all of your stuff going one direction up the line, you don't have to worry about sliding your heat shrink on first. Just don't forget to do it each time. get some heat shrink on there. And I like to leave the, you know, a little long, and then and this isn't super durable heat shrink because this is all internal, so this isn't like glued and stuff, but and that leaves me enough to get to the back of, in this case, the clock. And now this will go to another douche connector that's going down to the center console. Today was a really good day. As you can see, I have carpet back in here. Maybe you can see, maybe you can't. But I have carpet. Still needs a good vacuuming. I started on that side, but I have one more wire to connect under the dash. What I didn't realize is there's no feed for the reverse lights, because again, this fuse panel wasn't set up for reverse lights. I used the third brake light wire for reverse lights. So I looked at the original schematic. Nope, that's a lie. I looked at a 69 Mustang, which is what the motor's out of, because it was a better schematic, and it feeds off of the wiper circuit. So that's easy enough, it's right here. So I do still have to do that, and then I don't want to go under that dash for a long time. It was a good day. I'm tired though. Everything lined up, the carpet went back in beautifully. I hate this carpet, but apparently there is no kit for this car. This looks like it was just a flat piece of carpet that somebody molded. Maybe future me will attempt to do that with a better cut of carpet. Here's all of the wiring for the sub, as well as provisions if there should be a second sub. I still have the trunk to do, tail lights, brake lights, license plate light, but that should go really pretty easy. The engine bay, on the other hand, is going to be a whole different mess. But it's okay, it's all going well. Now, fingers crossed that it works, because there's really no way to test it until it's done. But that's okay. So, but it's looking good. I'm pretty happy. So I'm working on the trunk area now, getting the tail lights and stuff wired up. This is actually one of the front parking lights, but as you can see, there's no insulation left on those wires at all. They were shorted out, so there was no, you know, parking light turn signal. So what I opted to do, as opposed to trying to chase down a socket that will fit, I found these little guys made by Pico, and that is the, I'll show it to you this way, it's the end of the wire that touches the bulb contact. So I've opted to make my own pigtails and just rewire the socket. So here's the fun part. You can only strip a little tiny bit because that contact is quite short. It's quite short. And then my good crimpers crimps the wire portion of it beautifully, but doesn't crimp the jacket portion. So I don't know if you can see that, but it does a really nice job, but it leaves the jacket portion open. So I have a second set of crimpers, and I just pop them in and quick squeeze, and now the jacket portion is done too. And then to keep things consistent, I'm measuring them out to be 8 inches. So 2 brown for the running light, 1 yellow, and then I have to do a green for the other side. And then I have to do it again for the fronts, because that's these. Now, whoever was into the electrical before didn't realize that these little guys were connectors, and they cut everything, and then at least they used butt connectors this time and not Scotch locks. So this is the reverse light bulb here, which is kind of weird because that bulb is way up in that socket, but And then what you got is you got a single wire. Now this one is a little different than the taillights. The taillights just have a little spring on each one. This obviously has the two isolators and a larger spring, but you just take that out. Do have to cut that bullet off the end though. We're going to push all that out. We're going to put our new one in just like it was. Back down through the socket. And that's it. Now you got a perfectly good socket that has been rewired without having to hunt down a specialty socket like this. Easy. So easy. All the wiring in the trunk is done, and all the wiring in the cab is done. I give that air quotes for a couple reasons. One, I did technically use the old wire for the dome light, but that's because I don't want to upset the headliner. And the other reason that it gets air quotes is because every 5 minutes or so I'm like, oh, I forgot this wire, or oh, I forgot that wire. So hopefully now I actually have everything in there. I had a couple of hiccups as far as the diagram showed one of the wires being an ignition based wire, and it turned out to be a battery based wire, and you might think that's no big deal, but that's a matter of, is it on the key switch or is it hot all the time? So I worked my way through that, and I'll probably cover all of that in a final wrap up, but for now my goal is to get all of these wires through this rubber grommet that goes on the firewall. And I'm just kind of playing right now. This chunk right here is everything that goes to this light. Oh, you know what I didn't look to see though is the horn in here. Yes, the horn is here. Everything, it's this corner plus the tack signal that comes from the MSD box. I did add this junction block up here, which will be one lug for ignition power source, the other lug for accessory. So anything that needs power during crank and anything that just needs power with the key on. I figured if I needed straight battery connection, there's where the battery goes. So that wasn't really a big deal. This little connector right here was put in for the backup safety switch and the neutral safety switch and the reverse light switch. And right now it's just going to loop. Otherwise, it's just going to be a matter of gathering up all of these wires and getting them where they need to go. Now, the way that this is originally set up, for instance, the headlight, the low beam wire came and it went to this headlight, but it tapped out. There was a block right here and it tapped out and also went across the front to that headlight. And I don't want to do that. I'm going to actually tap it back here and run it. This chunk that's taped together here is the engine harness, so it'll actually run across, go all the way down and go to that headlight on that side. So there'll be no wires across the front. Even though they'll be technically visible back here, they'd be invisible under the cowl. I want it to be easier to work on this front end when and if the need arises. So I'm going to go ahead and work through this rubber grommet. Maybe I'll set up the GoPro so you can kind of watch, but full disclosure, I really want to listen to some music, and YouTube sucks for that. So you're going to get some different music in the background of all of this, and it won't be nearly as good as the stuff I'm listening to. Play.
After all I've done, do you love me now? Do you love me now? After all I've said, running through your head, do you love me now? Do you love me now? made you believe this was me. The truth is I am not at all.
Hey, before we get back too far into this time lapse, I wanted to show you a little trick. If you have an area that's real tight, like down in here, even a roll that doesn't have much on it is still kind of too big to fit in there. So if you take your tape and you wrap it around the socket, as I was told, has to be a 10 millimeter, and you just make yourself your own little mini roll of tape. Now this stuff you got to be a little bit careful because it's pressure sensitive, so you don't want to wrap it too tight, but you can actually make yourself your own little roll to get down into tight places. And that information came from South Main Auto on YouTube. Eric, pretty awesome tech. I really enjoy watching his stuff. And now back to the time lapse.
And I deserve to be alone here with me. After all I've done, do you love me now? Do you love me now? After all I've said, running through your head, do you love me now? Do you love me now? And I believe I could close my eyes and make it go away in dreams. And honestly, I could die to take it all away from me. After all I've done, do you love me now? Do you love me now? And after all I've said, running through your head, do you love me now? Do you love me now? After all I've done, do you love me now? After all I've said, running through your head, do you love me
Alright, so what you just watched me do was obviously, route these wires out. Ooh, Amazon's here. Route these wires out the way that I needed them to be, and then tape them and get them pushed into the grommet, push them back into the firewall a little bit. That clamshell that goes around the grommet, I figure that's the first time it's had a new grommet put in it in like 70 years. It's pretty impressive. But it was a little bit hard to squeeze together, so I used the clamp to squeeze it and get that bottom screw set. And I wanted the bottom one set because of the slit in it. So I now have, there's Amazon. So I now have a harness going this way that goes over there. I have a harness here, and I kind of had to chuckle because, and it was completely by accident, there's some very rainbowy colors here. That goes to the engine, and I actually had two of those Delphi connectors to push through there. The one for the 3-wire alternator, which I don't run, but I want the option in case I run into a problem like I did last year where I had to swap the alternator on the side of the road and all I could get was a 3-wire. And then I have this guy over here that goes to this corner. I have this one that comes up to here and over to here. So that's it. Now all I have to do is start figuring out where I'm tapping into these to run where, and then I can get all that taped up and get them terminated to their final spots. But I don't know what day you're watching this. It's probably way in the future, but today is the 18th of March, and today is the day that Elon Musk brings the astronauts back from the space station who are stranded, and I'm gonna go watch the touchdown. I can almost see it with the naked eye, but I'm gonna watch it on TV So I'll bring you back in when I get back to work. Well, it is another fantastic weekend here at Fun Clean Garage. It's actually Friday evening. I just thought I would bring you up to speed as to what's going on. The only thing that you've missed is me taping and untaping that harness 4,200 times. Admittedly, I did make a mistake, and I decided to correct it a different way than to untape all of that and correct it, not necessarily the right way, but the way I was planning. So the horns, there's one horn on each side of the car, and it's just the way it was when I got them. It really makes no difference. The beeping of the horn, no matter where it comes from, I mean, some cars have them down in the wheel wells. I didn't even think about that. But anyway, I'm going to, the mistake that I made was I ran the wire to that side and I never tapped it to run it around to this side, like the parking lights, the headlights, that kind of stuff. And I had already taped that whole section over there. So I just thought, I'm just going to move the horns all over to one side. I'm thinking about changing them out to something. These are kind of wimpy horns, and this is not a wimpy car. They are a friendly beep, but I'd like the beep to match the car. So I do have a set out of the Dodge Donor that my Cummins came out of, that the Cummins motor came out of. But I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. The biggest issue that I was fighting right now was making sure I had enough wire for this headlight bucket, being that I had to tap it. The way the harness is made, it should go to that headlight, then come straight across. But I went out to that headlight across and out to this headlight. So I had an extra this much used, but I have made it. The parking lot light, or the parking light ends here. It goes in here into the bucket and goes to a ditch connector. It's going to be fine. So I was just playing with routing, and I think that this is what I have decided on roughly for my final routing. I like it. I'm going to clean up the wires in the bundle and get to taping. I've climbed in and out of this car so many times already. Alright, so I'm just doing a final taping on this harness, and I'm working to the outside so that I can push any slack, that kind of stuff. You see I got a little bit of a slacky wire right here. And waste a lot of zip ties. They're cheap. They're like 60 cents or 38 cents a bag, I think I pay for the 4-inch. Oh, I think that's going to be just fine. It's not intrusive. Doesn't look terrible. I mean, as long as I keep doing a good job of taping. If my taping starts to get ugly, that'll be different, but this is the moment where you better know that all your wires are here. Because admittedly, I've taped and untaped a whole bunch of sections of this because I forgot stuff. Now when you're laying out the wires, and you're laying the wires, and you have these bundles like this, you're kind of laying them out and you're like, wow, that's so floppy, I'm gonna have to put 30 ties to hold that and stuff. But once you tape that harness up, it's pretty rigid. So don't start putting your tie points in until you know that you need them. I've got one here under this distribution block, way over here, see it over here? And then I will probably put one right where this breaks off just to hold the weight of this, but otherwise it's you know, one here, probably one here. I got one in the corner, and that isn't going to go anywhere. And remember, heat is going to affect it. As it gets warmer, it may start to sag, that kind of stuff. So don't put like one every 5 feet and think you're going to be good either. So, but I'm going to get that finished up, and I'll bring it back in a bit. So I got the passenger side headlight all wired up and in, and I went ahead and bought a new set of these retaining rings. They're from Dennis Carpenter, but I think I bought them through rubbertherightway.com. But as you can see, This one was no longer a complete circle. So these fit magnificently. They are nice and shiny. So that was a nice improvement. Next comes the piece de la resistance. I got new marker lenses, and I'm pretty excited about it. They weren't cheap. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't it lovely? Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm gonna go ahead and take care of the other side. And then I think all the front electrical is done other than the fans. You didn't really think that I was gonna make you miss putting on one of the most important pieces. You're probably not nearly as excited as I am. I was just trying to wheel it around a little bit to dig those clips down through the paint. So these front lenses are repops from Dennis Carpenter. And at the point that I realized they're supposed to be clear, not yellow, because mine were very, very amber in color, I decided I was going to buy a set of these. And they have been out of stock for like a year. So as soon as they got them back in stock, I plunked down my money. Now these are not the correct screws for this. The original screws for this position actually have a shoulder on them. I think I only have like 1 or 2 of those. And I do have these nice stainless steel ones, so I'm going to use these until I can find a replacement or come up with some kind of a sleeve or... Oh, that's so much better. Let's do a before and after compare. Before, after, before, after. These are terrible. I honestly thought these were supposed to be amber. It almost looks like maybe they were painted with something to make them amber. I don't know. But now they're not amber. And that is going to be a wrap on the wiring for now. I say for now because as you can see, there is still a harness sticking up out of the firewall that's incomplete. That is the engine harness, and the engine isn't here yet, which, speaking of, it is actually due to me any day. We are getting very close to Power Tour, and I want to make it known that I don't create these fake panic dates and all this drama just for YouTube. It is all real. What you are seeing is 100% legit what is going on. Just sometimes you get to see it a little later than it happened. I am filming this right now on the 30th of April. I have 1 month until Power Tour. Again, I don't know when you're seeing this. The motor is due back to me hopefully any day now. But I do find that when I have deadlines, it keeps me motivated to complete stuff, and I don't have a tendency to push it off so much. But there is a lot of stuff coming pre-Power Tour footage wise. There's transmission work to be done. I've already done it. You'll see those videos coming out as well. I actually did the transmission yesterday. So you'll see those videos coming out hopefully before Power Tour happens. You'll want to see our Power Tour footage. It's always a lot of fun, so please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notification. While you're down there clicking on stuff, click that share button and share it with a friend or an enemy or a random stranger, I don't care. And as always, that comment section is open for you. Now, as I have said, I have a ton of work to do and a very, very short time to do it. So I'm going to get back to work. Until next time, thanks for watching.